It's the Tim Constantine Show.
Joe Biden and some of his lackeys and Eric Holder are sitting down today with the NRA. Now, what's fascinating about this is it appears yesterday they sat down with all kinds of gun control groups, and they sat down with people that they want to confiscate your guns, literally, people that think we should just all turn in our weapons. And so they had to make a show of this. You know, there are those that say, well, that's good. They're getting a balanced approach. They're sitting down with the NRA. They'll have a good idea what they're looking for. They'll have a good idea what the gun control advocates are looking for. And we'll have a balanced approach from Joe Biden. Long pause, because do you really expect a balanced approach from Joe Biden? It's window dressing. They want to be able to say, I'm sure I met with the NRA. This is kind of like a couple of years back when the president was trying to come up with what the final health care program would be, and 2 days after he gave his ideas to Congress, he met with the Republicans. And he said, well, I met with the Republicans. What more do you want? But here's the fascinating part for me, is Eric Holder, as Attorney General, is sitting in on these meetings. Now, whether that's a strategy, whether that's helpful in any way, I don't know. I'm not going to second-guess that. Of course I'm going to second-guess that, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now second-guessing that. What I am going to do for you, though, is give you a little background on Eric Holder. He is our Attorney General, has been since the very beginning for President Barack Obama. But if you go back in time, if you dig through the archives and you listen to Eric Holder and what he had to say back in the mid-'90s. Let's go all the way back 17 years to 1995 and listen to our now Attorney General Eric Holder.
I want to have, as part of the gun initiative, though, an informational campaign to really change the hearts and minds of people in Washington, D.C., and in particular our young people. They are saturated in the media and in entertainment, or by the entertainment industry, with violence. And I think too many of our young people, in particular our young men, are fascinated with violence and in particular fascinated with guns.
Now, wait a minute. Did I just hear the now Attorney General Eric Holder blaming Hollywood, blaming video games for the violence and for the fascination with guns among young men in society in America? Could that mean, then, we should have video game control and movie control instead of gun control? Let's continue to hear what Eric Holder had to say about this topic in 1995.
And what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people, and make it something that's not cool.
Not cool at all.
It's not acceptable. It's not hip to carry a gun anymore. In the way,
although you can carry a gun on your hip,
which we've changed our attitudes about cigarettes. You know, when I was growing up, people smoked all the time. I mean, both my parents did. But over time, we changed the way in which people thought about smoking, and so now we have people who cower outside of buildings and kind of smoke in private and don't want to admit it.
Absolutely true.
And that's what I think we need to do with guns. One thing that I think is...
We think that gun owners should cower outside in the gun section?
With young people and with adults as well, is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Now, I tend to agree with Eric Holder. I can't believe I'm uttering those words, but I actually agree with Eric Holder, at least Eric Holder of 1995. I do think Hollywood and video games and all these others influence subconsciously. It's not like I go and I watch a movie and I see Al Pacino go crazy with a gun. Say hello to my little friend. No, I don't want to emulate that. I'm just saying you get soft to it. At some point, you start to get soft to it. At some point, you may think, you know what, I want to carry a gun. But you might not have the temperament for it. You might get mad because that guy at Burger King is too slow in front of you. The next thing you know, your hand is on your gun and... Well, that might be an exaggeration, but not too much. Eric Holder is saying we have to change the way people think in society about whether or not it's cool. He uses cigarettes as an example. And I'll go back to the 1980s, and that was kind of the turning point for cigarettes, for tobacco use. Prior to that, if you go back to my father's youth, when Humphrey Bogart had a cigarette in his mouth all the time, he was the ultimate in cool. He was Mr. Cool, and he smoked. And so people emulated that. And that went on throughout Hollywood for a long, long time. But in the 1980s, it started to change. And there was a hit show called Miami Vice. And Sonny was the character on Miami Vice, and he smoked cigarettes a lot. And he was the very definition in the 1980s of cool. Well, he realized somewhere about halfway through the run of Miami Vice that smoking was influencing people. The fact that he was seen as cool, his character was seen as cool, influenced people and made other people think, all right, I'll pop a butt in my mouth. And so, at least on the show, I have no idea whether the actor quit in real life or not, but at least on the show, he no longer smoked cigarettes. And they took that out. And then as you got into the 90s, it was all the bad guys. If you watch the X-Files, it was the smoking man. He was the bad guy, the ultimate bad guy. And they've done that with characters in Hollywood ever since. The smokers are the bad guys. They're the black hat guys. And so is it that far-fetched to think if it can influence tobacco use, that Hollywood could influence whether or not people use guns and whether or not they use them responsibly simply by changing the way it's presented to them?
It's the Tim Constantine Show.